Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Do you believe the President of the United States has made Americans less safe?
I do. And now he's making some choices that, in my mind, will in fact raise the risk to the American people of another attack.
Vice President Dick Cheney there on this program just about a month ago. President Obama's election mandate was to fix a struggling U.S. economy. But as he starts his 97th day in office today, national security challenges are front and center. A debate about whether releasing Bush administration terror policy memos was a blunder, and over whether some of the Bush officials should be prosecuted. And fresh violence in both Iraq and Pakistan will test the new administration's military and diplomatic strategies. Joining us to talk about this and assess the president's first 100 days, Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein of California, the chairwoman of the Select Committee on Intelligence, Senator Joe Lieberman of Connecticut, the independent, former Democrat, and from South Carolina, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham. Chairwoman, I want to start with you on the Vice President's point. You heard the Vice President say there he thinks the new administration is making the American people less safe. He also says that there are other memos not released into the public that prove his point that these controversial interrogation tactics used in limited circumstances actually produced intelligence that saved U.S. lives, including preventing an attack in your home state of California, the city of Los Angeles. Is he right?
Well, I've received those memos. I asked him for them, and he sent them to me. They are classified memos, so I won't go into them. That's the reason why I believe the Intelligence Committee is the oversight agency for 16 intelligence agencies, including the CIA. It is our responsibility to do oversight. We have access to the classified information, and we have set upon a course, a bipartisan course, with a program scope approved by the committee to review the conditions of detention and the techniques of interrogation of each of the high-value detainees. We estimate that'll take 6 to 8 months. My hope is that the public debate quells, that we have an opportunity to do our work. The committee will consider it, and then we will release most likely findings and recommendations.
Findings and recommendations, I want to get to the other senators, but to the Vice President's point that he believes those documents would show that the tactics worked, save lives.
It's very hard to tell on the face because you have to go into who learned what at the time. Now I can go into at least one specific case, and it's very uncertain. So we need to find these things out, and we need to do it in a way that's calm and deliberative and professional, because I think all of this on the front burner before the public does harm our intelligence gathering. It does harm America's position in the world. And President Obama has worked so hard now to open a new page, to go to so many countries to say that America is now on a different course. Let us do our work, and let us do it the way it should be done.
But Senator Graham, you and Senator Lieberman opposed releasing these documents, even though you were critics of the interrogation tactics. You thought it would undermine the mission of the United States, right now the mission of the CIA. But now that some are out, does the Vice President, former Vice President, have a point? If some are out, should all be out?
Well, here's my concern is that one, I think it was a mistake to release the techniques that we're talking about and inform our enemy as to what may come their way. I like what Senator Feinstein said, to go through it. And there's no doubt in my mind that you may have gotten some useful information out of these techniques, but the other side of the story is very real. The more America embraces these techniques, like waterboarding that comes from the Inquisition, the harder it is to get allies to go with us into the Mideast to fight the insurgents. You inflame the population. Our enemy uses these images against us. To say that these techniques have brought about no good or no information is wrong. But also to say that it's been a net positive is wrong. There's a way to get good information in an aggressive manner to protect this nation without having to go into the Inquisition era. I believe you can do both.
And what about going forward, Senator Lieberman? The President, in releasing these memos, you didn't like that he did, right, but the President's message was, let's look forward, not look back. But then the President himself said, I'll leave this up to my Attorney General as to whether anyone should be prosecuted. Let's listen to Mr. Holder.
I will not permit the criminalization of policy differences. However, it is my responsibility as the Attorney General to enforce the law. It is my duty to enforce the law. If I see evidence of wrongdoing, I will pursue it to the full extent of the law.
Are you comfortable with that? Do you think this should be pursued? And if you rule out the interrogators, saying they were told, they were following orders, they were acting on legal advice, that what they were doing were right, who are we talking about here? Are we talking about CIA director? Are we talking about the Attorney General in the previous administration, Secretary Rumsfeld, somebody in the White House?
Yeah, no, it's not clear who we are talking about, and I think it is a mistake. I go back to what the President said at the beginning. It's time to look forward. These are top secret documents. These were lawyers. You could disagree with them, but in my opinion, they were trying to do what they thought would protect our country. And here's the most important point. This whole debate is moot. President Obama has prohibited these tactics from being used in interrogation. So what do we gain? Well, what do we gain first by releasing the memos, but secondly, what do we gain from indicting lawyers for their opinions, if that's a possibility here, or holding a so-called truth commission? The reality is it will poison the water here in Washington. It will achieve nothing. It'll make it harder for the president to do some of the big things he wants to do for the country, not just get the economy going, but get some Republican support for health care reform, energy independence, and education reform. So let the Intelligence Committee do its work. That should be the end of it.
And one of the questions in the political debate, as you well know, there are people out there saying, wait a minute, you have all these politicians and largely Democrats now saying, you know, investigate, Truth Commission, investigate, we had no idea. A timeline released by your committee, Senator Feinstein, says, and this is backed up by the former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee and then CIA Director Porter Goss, Pete Hoekstra, notes that, you know, select members of Congress were briefed way back at the beginning, including now Speaker Nancy Pelosi. And the timeline by your committee says that they were briefed on the use of waterboarding on 3 detainees, Abu Zubaydah, Abd al-Rahim al-Nashir, and Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. The now Speaker Pelosi says, no way. She was told there were legal opinions were written, but not that the tactics had been used. Is she telling the truth?
Well, I can't comment on that. I wasn't there. Just 4 people were briefed. The full committee, including myself, were briefed in September of '06. Now that's 4 years later or so. So there is a big gap. I am really strongly opposed to just certain members being briefed on something this seriously. It seems to me the whole committee should be briefed at a given time. We've been very good at retaining security, and I think it's a real disadvantage to the system just to have a few people briefed, because it really is a notification. There is no real discussion. When you deal with the whole committee, everybody fires back questions, there's a discussion, there's a dialogue, and I think a point of view emerges.
Well, to Senator Feinstein's point, Senator Graham, if the committee, the Intelligence Committee, is going to look into this, and you all think that's the more responsible, measured way to do it, should the committee also look into whether Porter Goss or Nancy Pelosi is telling the truth about what came up at those briefings?
Well, I'll leave that up to the committee, but the point is, if a member of Congress was read into this program, does it matter? Yes, I think it matters. It's clear to me that the people who were devising these interrogation techniques were not trying to commit a crime against an individual person. They were trying to create tools for our intelligence community to get information to prevent what we all thought was going to be an imminent attack. The Geneva Convention did not apply until 2005 to the war on terror. So I can't conceive of a statute that you could prosecute anyone under, because their endeavor was not to commit a crime, but to look at the law and come up with aggressive interrogation techniques to get information from an enemy that we all thought was coming after us again. So, however, if you think what they did was a crime and you read someone into it, they're part of the crime. So I think it's ridiculous to say the lawyers were trying to break the law. They were trying to interpret the law to protect the nation. And any member of Congress that was read into the program, I don't think they have any culpability either, because what we were trying to do is defend the nation, not conspire to hurt somebody individually, but techniques to protect us all.